Hello. That's not right. Hello. So back on with the project today. We've got a lot of cleaning ahead of us and we're going to check the power supply and make sure the power supply is working, make sure the power supply is not going to fry anything before we fire up the computer section. So one of the things I'm most concerned about is this whole linear power supply, and this one is from a very heavy. The transformer is massive on here. So this is a cut down version of the main power supply that's in the CMI. One of the things you'll notice is it's got really big capacitors. So a lot of people tend to think these capacitors are pretty reliable, and they are. And a lot of people tend to think they just don't go bad. They do. Similar type of capacitor, oil and paper. This one is dead short. So if I'd put 15 volts DC at full power through here, I would have had a really nice explosion. I've actually had a smaller version of one of these paper and oil filled capacitors go bad before, and besides almost losing my hearing when the thing popped, the amount of smoke, the amount of foul smell that came off this thing makes me never want to see these go up again. I don't have a variac, so the best thing I can do is remove all the strain off the capacitors and just bring it up with a bit of voltage in it. But before we kick off, let's get back to my story. So things with technology started moving super fast in the 70s. Another birthday came along and my father came to me again and said,
"You need an electronics kit."
I was open to this idea. I suspect it was a way for my family to hopefully stop me pulling apart every electronic device I could find. This had solar cells in it. It took me a while to figure out that just putting standard light over the solar cells really didn't do too much. But this is where I really started to work with electronics. Tried to start understanding how resistors worked, how capacitors worked, how relays worked. But as I said, technology was moving very fast. There used to be a show on British TV called Tomorrow's World. It looked at current technology, but also where technology was heading. One night in particular, my world changed. They showed this amazing thing called a Fairlight CMI. The presenter sits down in front of this huge computer with a piano keyboard. He says hello into the computer and then is able to play it back on the keyboard. He's able to create a sound, he's able to store the sound on floppy disks and then play it back. The world had now changed. This Fairlight had actually been stored in someone's attic for about 10 years. So you can imagine the amount of dirt, dust and everything else built up on this. It is nasty and we're going to clean it. So nice wooden feet on the bottom of the Fairlight here. I'm going to pull it apart. There's metal on the other side and of course the feet are wood, so I don't want any corrosion. I don't want the wood to get rot or anything like that, and also it's a bit filthy underneath. So the actual industrial design of the Fairlight, the mainframe, the way it looks, the keyboard, the monitor, that was all done by Alan Galt in Sydney. He designed and actually made all of this. So every Fairlight, every panel on every Fairlight, every metal bit on every Fairlight came out of his factory in Sydney, and they were all handmade. Alright, I've been putting this off. A part of me wants to believe I'm just going to hook this up together and it's all going to work. It's very unlikely. So one of the things Fairlight used to do before actually shipping these things out was to bake them, to actually heat them up as hot as they could get them and check for component failures. So the Fairlights that actually shipped were pretty rock solid. This means, hopefully, the components that I've got here should largely be mostly okay. Mostly. So the Fairlight's up on its end. This I just found was the easiest way to get cards in and out. So the first card coming out there is the master card that runs all the audio cards on the Fairlight. Underneath that you can see the 8 voice cards, and each one of those is quite a complex card, multiple digital to analog converters, of course the analog filters. So I'm just putting these into a tub, as you can see, and putting some anti-static bags in between each card. I'll be coming back and grabbing these cards quite frequently, so I want them to be quite accessible, but obviously I don't want to zap them with static electricity. Underneath the voice cards we've got the main processor section, the RAM, floppy drive controller, I/O, pretty much everything that runs the computer side of the CMI. Now what a lot of people don't know is the computer side of the CMI was not designed by Fairlight. It was designed by a person called Dr. Tony Furs, and as such Peter Vogel and Kim Ryrie licensed that technology from Dr. Furs. So one of the things I really want to do here is actually reduce as much as possible the weight in the CMI while I'm working on it. One of the ways I'm going to do that is by removing the floppy drives. If I remember correctly, a fully loaded CMI is about 45 kilograms in weight. That's really heavy. It's the upper limit of what a single person can lift by themselves. So everything on the CMI is of the highest quality. Well, almost everything. The one weakness you will see on every CMI are the little hinges that hold on the door to the computer section. Fortunately, I'm able to 3D print the hinges, so I've improved them slightly over time, and I'll show those off in a later episode. So almost got the floppy drives out. It's hard to imagine how long this takes, but I don't want the floppy drives to smash into something. I don't want to damage the heads on the floppy drives, even though I'm not intending to use the floppy drives in the system, at least not at the moment. So the first one is about to come out, and you can see it's absolutely massive. Second one out, and yeah. Okay, so the next trick is we've got to get power into the CMI, and we've got a big problem. The on switch is actually a key, and I don't have the key. So I'm going to have to try and find a way to work around that. So fortunately it's a 2-part key system, so the key lock itself is different from the switch component, and it turned out if I just remove a few screws I can actually turn the switch and enable the power. So the part I didn't film here was actually I put a rubber boot back over the switch once I'd modified it. That way I don't have 240 volts just randomly flapping around inside a metal chassis. Alright, getting really close to putting some power through this. This is the moment where potentially it's going to spark. And that's really good news. The fans have kicked into gear. That means 110 volts is actually coming out of the transformer. I think we're good. I think we've got power. So let's check the voltage rails. Let's make sure that these are good voltages and what we're expecting. So I'm actually measuring this slightly backwards, as you can see. So the plus 12 is actually the negative 12, and the minus 11 is actually the plus 12. I hope this would be the case, but I didn't expect it to work out of the box. So we've got all the key voltages, everything seems to be working. Now it's time to actually rebuild the computer section. So these are the cards that are required to get the computer section of the CMI up. It doesn't mean it's going to boot. To be able to boot into the CMI software, you need at least a master card, a functional master card, and to actually get into a lot of the sections after that from the menus, you need at least one voice card. You've got no idea how much force I'm putting on these cards here to try and get them to seat. They refuse to seat, totally will not go in, even though they just came out. Guessing that the plastics have shrunk slightly over the years. Plastic, as it ages, loses some of its polymers and various other things and does tend to shrink slightly. So maybe this is why I'm having so much trouble. So I keep checking with a light to make sure I'm not trying to push the cards in and there's a cable between the card and the actual backplane, but no, they just refuse to go in. Alright, I've finally got the card seated. Now it's time to throw the switch and see what happens. So I've got a red LED on the RAM card there. That's not good. That means that there's power going in, but it's not resetting, it's not clearing the RAM. Realistically, the only thing I can do at this point is hook up a monitor and see if I'm getting any errors or see exactly what's going on with the system. So I've hooked up a monitor, I've made a makeshift cable to run the monitor from the CMI graphics card. The great thing about the graphics card is it's just a composite video signal that comes out of it. So TVs and monitors, such as this old green screen monitor, they'll work perfectly with the CMI. Time to fire it up and see what happens. Yeah. No, that does not look good. Huh. Maybe I've got a loose connection? No. I know what I've done. I've put it together backwards, so I've put the ground on the signal and the signal on the ground. Oh! Okay. The graphics card's working. I'm guessing parts of the computer are working, but it's not resetting and it's not executing code. So the 133 card again. The 133 card, or known as the debug card, holds not only the machine language monitor, but also the boot ROM to get this up, the serial ports. Pretty much this needs to be working for the system to work. Now, there are a lot of jumpers on here and somebody's been having a play at some point. So, playing around with a few of the jumpers, I managed to get this ready signal. Alright, I am not sure what that is. That is normally not what would come up. Referring to the service manual and resetting jumpers again, I think we should be good. Now here's a scary moment. There's nothing on the screen at all, but that's because the old monitor needs some time to warm up. And that is exactly what I want to see. That is how you load the software for the CMI. A quick photo for the Facebook group to show there's been a bit of progress, and it's time to go to bed. Wow, it is so late. Getting any further than this is going to have to happen tomorrow. So next time we'll try and get the Fairlight to boot. The system came with no cables, so we'll actually make up some cables so we can connect everything together. We'll see if the music keyboard works, and we'll see if the alpha keyboard works. Until then, thank you for watching, and I'll chat to you next time.